So now that we've explored the different operating modes, for the rest of this tutorial I'm going to leave it on advanced mode, which personally I like to use most of the time. Let's move to step 2, and step 2 is all about selecting the dual engine routing configuration that you require. So a couple of videos ago I explained that LX480 has two distinct sound engines, and these reside in these buttons here, engine 1 and engine 2. So when you switch between these, you're seeing the different parameters for that chosen engine. So if I move to engine 2, we're now seeing all of the parameters for what's contained in sound engine 2. Whereas if I hit engine 1 here, I'm seeing the parameters for that sound engine. And it's really easy to show this in hardware mode, because if I'm in hardware mode, let's change this second engine to panorama, and when I switch to engine 2, you'll notice that all of these options are blacked out. So you're clearly seeing that these two engines contain different parameters and different values. Now, what's really interesting about this is that if you go into the setup menu and go to the config tab, the second tab, you've got 4 different ways that you can route one engine into another. So let's start with the first one. This first routing configuration is called single engine mode. And what this really does is toggle between one engine or another. So in this particular mode, only one engine is active at a time, either engine 1 or engine 2. And that's shown visually on the screen by the one that's button is depressed and has that red glow around it. So if I'm clicking here, that means that what I'm hearing currently through the plugin is engine 2, and engine 1 is doing nothing at all, and vice versa here. This is engine 1 is processing audio, and engine 2, whatever you do with these settings, it doesn't matter. And we've got 3 other routing configurations. We've got what we call cascade mode, and this is where one engine is daisy chained into another, and more specifically, it's the input to the plugin goes into the input of engine 1, and the output of engine 1 is sent directly to the input of engine 2, and the output of engine 2 is what then goes to your next plugin in your chain. So this is like daisy chaining one plugin after the other. The third mode is called mono split. And if you look at the diagrams here, they give you a really clear representation of what's happening. So we can see that the left-hand side input goes to engine 1, and the right-hand side input goes to engine 2. And this is mono in, stereo out. So what we're seeing is we're only getting one channel in, but we're getting a stereo output here. And again, the left out of engine 1 is going to the left hand side, and the left out of engine 2 is also being summed. So the outputs on the left hand side of both engine 1 and engine 2 are being added together and sent to the output. And the same thing there happens with the rights as well. So the right output of engine 1 is summed with the right output of engine 2, and then that is sent to the main output. The final one is called stereo split, and this is like having these two engines running in parallel. So both the left and the rights get sent to each engine, and then the outputs of those get summed. So that's like having both engines running in parallel. So when might you use each engine? 90% or more of the time, you might want to run in single engine configuration. So what this will do is you can only have one engine going at a time, and if you do want to quickly switch between 2 different options, you can quickly flick between these 2 to kind of bypass one or the other and compare states. The next one, cascade, I really like this, and quite often I will have a delay in engine 1 and some sort of reverb in engine 2. Other times I'll have a reverb in engine 1 and the panorama stereo widener in engine 2. Some other use cases are sometimes I'll have something like a plate, which is a more top end heavy reverb, and something that builds up much quicker, and having that with light mix settings fed into a hall, and therefore I can blend two different reverbs together, daisy chain together. Then on the mono split, this is a really great way to kind of make wider reverb sounds. And most of the time when I'm using mono split, I'll actually have the same algorithm on both. And what I'll be doing with that is changing the settings ever so slightly between engine 1 and engine 2. And what that will give me is this like ultra wide stereo field. And in terms of stereo split, you know, if I want to utilize having two different reverbs running together, say on a snare drum, having a plate and a hall simultaneously, you can do that. So that can be really great and really efficient on your processing and using less channels if you want it to. Learning which routing configuration is going to work best under what circumstances is something that's likely to take some trial and error. And if you want to find out more about these routing configurations, find more tutorials, there's plenty more to be learned in the Relab Development Learning Center. So you can get at this using the help button here and clicking on any of these links for the Relab Help Center. Or alternatively, you can just go directly to the website and click the Learning tab. Anything that you want to know about LX480 or other Relab products, this is the place to go.